and welcome to another episode of the Bonus Points podcast. I am your host, Joe Garrett, as always being joined by Ollie Guy.
Hello.
Hello, Ollie. Welcome back to the show, and also welcome a new friend of the show that we are introducing to everyone today. That's Heather Violet. Welcome to the podcast.
All right.
Welcome.
What's up? How's it going?
So we're finally reunited back on YouTube, Heather, after much demand. No one will remember this because no one watched them.
Much back demand, in the are you sure?
But back in the day, Heather and I did like videos. Like, do you remember the names of some of the games we did videos on?
Oh, we were talking about it the other day and now I've forgotten what it was called.
Well, I know we did Limbo. That's the one I remember with the spider.
And they were just like indie
nice
games.
one.
There was that gay, like just weird sort of. There was that cookie, fortune cookie game where you opened fortune cookies. It wasn't good. Oh, Applejack. Applejack, I love you to your core. Yeah.
Basically, we'd try and do like find the worst games on Xbox. You remember, not even Xbox Live arcade games or Xbox Live games, but you know they had the like self-publishing section, where there's like loads of games for like 50p or something. We would play like the free trial of those and do YouTube videos on them.
Those were the days.
So good to have you back. And don't worry, we are not going to be talking about any of those. We are going to be talking about the Elder Scrolls Skyrim. So before we jump into why you chose this game, do you want to kind of set up, Ollie, what Skyrim is?
Well, first of all, I just want to say I've been playing Applejack for 2 weeks. I thought that's what we were doing. So,
sorry.
Oh, that was my second choice.
Oh, okay.
No, it wasn't.
45 hours into Applejack.
And it was so deep. It was such an immersive experience.
Yeah.
What ending did you get?
All right, let me read this. Hang on. Okay. The Elder Scrolls Skyrim is an action role-playing video game developed by Bethesda Game Studios and published by Bethesda Softworks. It is the fifth main installment in the Elder Scrolls series and was released worldwide for PC, PS3 and Xbox 360 on November the 11th, 2011. The game is set 200 years after the events of Oblivion and takes place in Skyrim, the northernmost province of Tamriel. Its main story focuses on the player's character, the Dragonborn, on their quest to defeat Ulduin the World Eater, a dragon who is prophesied to destroy the world. There you go. Okay,
that's a good summary. I mean, most people know what Skyrim is, even if they haven't played it, but for the one person who doesn't, probably have a pretty good idea. So Heather, you had a choice of basically any game under the sun. For a while, you kind of scared me a bit, hinting that you might choose A Bug's Life, the PlayStation 1 video game.
Listen, don't judge it, okay?
I played it as a kid.
So I remember when I was a kid, I went to a game shop and I got A Bug's Life and Final Fantasy VII. Those were my first two PlayStation 1 games.
Two classics.
And I haven't chosen either of them. Listen, Skyrim was and still is my life. I spent many years playing it before I had children, when I had ample time, and I invested my everything in it. So I know the game inside and out, but I obviously had to go back and replay it. Now, years later, with two children, and it has been quite stressful. I abandoned both my children. One of them's in the other room crying. I don't know where the other one is. And the house is just an absolute mess. I've just been slaying dragons, baby.
That hasn't been great. Has it been great, though?
I have it. So since having my second 5 months ago, this is the first game that I've picked up. And I mean, I wouldn't recommend maybe playing this if you don't have a lot of time, because it is definitely the kind of game that you want to really sort of get into and invest a good few hours into, especially, if you're new to the game. I think I spent a good 12 hours creating my character, so that in itself is,
Oh my God.
I'm joking, not 12 hours.
I was going to say.
That's an exaggeration.
I love the idea.
It's look exactly like you.
No, it's just the most generic person. Might as well be an NPC. It's like every slider, you go to the end and then the other end, and then settle for the middle.
Then call them Nord Guy.
Just call them Guy. And then Ollie, so you you'd played a tiny bit of Skyrim on this channel for the best of threes, but you played it playing Supermarket Sweep and stacking books rather than battling dragons. Yeah. But apart from that, you've never played. Had you played any Elder Scroll games?
Nope. This was
no,
it
me
for
neither.
me.
I jumped on at Skyrim too.
Yeah, so first one in. The last 2 weeks I've been Skyrimming for the first time in my life.
So something that I need to clarify is, so obviously we do a game every 2 weeks and we have lives apart from this. So, Skyrim's a huge game. It can't be expected that we would finish it. Saying that, I finished it last night.
No, you didn't. 100%.
I did the main quest. Not. The main quest is kind of manageable, but you just have to if people keep running up to you like, I've got this message for you, Squire, you need to say, and I'll be like, nope. And then I'd keep running into things with there's been a murder that we need to solve. And I'm like, nope, got to kill this dragon.
Vampires, nope, keep going.
Yeah, so I did that last night and blasted through 4 or 5 quests in a row. Yeah. And then I looked up how far I was to the end and I did it, beat it.
I think if you were to just crack on and just complete the main quest, it's probably about a good 35 hours. I think I looked up, if you were to try and complete the game 100% and do all the side quests, all the everything, trophies, etc., I think it's something around 250 hours gameplay. It is such an immersive game.
Yeah.
And it is, I think, especially during COVID and things, when we were all sort of stuck indoors, just to have a game that you could escape to. It sounds ridiculous, but just be like, I'm just going to go for a walk. I'm just going to turn on Skyrim, go for a little walk. You can just, you don't know where the game's going to take you, don't know where it's going to lead. And for me, as somebody who doesn't get much time to game and has to be very selective about what I play, this is one of the most immersive games that I've played. And just, it makes me so happy. It's just, it's like, I'm just going to go and make some broth and have some mead and listen to some jaunty tunes.
Have still yet to complete any quests in the game. Still with the starting gear, but having lovely strolls across the lakes.
Just la la la.
Let's start with you first, Ollie, just because obviously it's very clear how much Heather loves the game. You hadn't played it. And you kind of haven't given any away yet. Is it what you expected it would be? Because obviously you've seen it everywhere. Anything surprise you about it?
Yes. Well, I don't want to be negative because I did like the game. Okay. The thing that did surprise me was the combat was not very good. And I thought it was going to be good. I don't know why I thought that.
Do you mean the one-handed,
swinging your sword? Two-handed. I'm a two-hander. I'm a double-hander.
You're a two-hander. How do you defend yourself? You're crazy.
Yeah, maybe that was part of the problem. But apart from that, I can see why people love this game. It's very charming, isn't it? And it's definitely better than the sum of its parts.
Did you stick to the main quest? Did you divert yourself?
I didn't. So basically, I played 15, 16 hours. And I didn't just do the main quest because Joe said, don't just do the main quest. Go and do weird stuff. So I think the last main thing I did, if it is the main thing, is I defended Whiterun against a big attack of soldiers.
Yeah.
And I got 4 of the shouts, and I activated 3 of them. And then I joined the Imperials and the Dark
You met the Greybeards then?
Yeah. Did all that. Yeah. Hung out with them. Cool old guys.
They are full of charisma.
They're we know loads of things, but we don't want to do anything. That's their whole thing. Is they could do all this stuff, but no, we'll stay at home on our mountain.
They were absolute lads. The way they were setting up the little we know you can do each of your shouts. They'd be like, okay, now run from there to here. And it was it's a bit like doing a drinking game or something, isn't it?
Yeah, it was.
They're all standing in a circle around you, shout.
Go on.
He can take it. Shout at him. He can take it. And then you just shout at him.
There is actually a mission. I didn't get to it this time around. I can't remember. But there's a particular mission where the objective is to get blindingly drunk, and then you wake up with I'm pretty sure you wake up with all of your gear gone. Possibly your clothes, and you don't know what's happened, and you're just where is everything? And then you have to try and slowly figure out what happened when you were drunk. So during COVID again, you you could go out, go get smashed, and
I think that's like
I don't know what's happened.
It's a great example because like it's quite like in every way like a rigid, stiff game. But I feel like they have like what they can do mechanically, but the writers for like the quests are so creative to like they push everything to the limit. And I think to compare it to another game we did on the podcast, World of Warcraft, where that game is like it's only fetch quests and killing things, and it's so like uncreative in terms of what you're doing, whereas in this you're going into dreams, or like I did a mission where I had to go, like in the Thieves Guild I had to go to like some fancy party and pretend to blend in, and like they even though there's not much mechanically that you're doing in the quests, like the stories that they're telling with them, it feels like what they've done everything now. Like what else like creative could they do? You know, as I say, you're like solving murders and all sorts. There are so many
options with where you take your character, who you want them to be. You know, not only just their name but their race. You know, and there's so much detail with like, you know, making your own armor, your own weapons, improving them, magic. It's just this. You can really make it your own, and you know, you can see, you know, I think it came out 2011, so it's we're 3 days off the 11-year anniversary, right? So you can see where there could be improvements. Like if they were to make a sequel, which, you know, touch wood, one day.
They've announced it. They're making it.
Oh, have they? I'm out of the
Yeah, it's going to be like years away, but I won't
get too excited then.
Shown a logo.
Awesome. I'll look it up later. I'll make it my screensaver for the next 10 years. But yeah, like you can see where there's room for improvement. I mean, obviously the speech it's almost a parody of, you know, those sort of games, you know. Oh, it must have been the wind. Things like, but you can see where there's room for improvement. You know, obviously when they're running, you can kind of be like, oh, I'm just going to sidestep down this massive mountain to get to the bottom because that's normal. And you know, the faces are quite stiff. The fighting's quite rigid. So you can see where it could be improved upon. But
I mean, the ratio of characters to voice actors is insane. Like the amount of ridiculous. Like it's just the same voices everywhere, and like not even only small characters, like even like more major characters. And it's like, you're the shopkeeper. I know you're like. It feels like there's just a few people running around like switching mustaches and changing hats. Like, quick, he's going into the museum. Quick, change your outfit. Like, play this character.
I've seen a YouTube video of that exact thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you know, Viva La Dirt League. Have you ever watched any of their videos?
I don't know if I have.
Someone commented one of their videos to us.
It's basically Skyrim, but with actual people. And having watched most of the things on their channel and then going back to Skyrim, it just felt like I was playing a parody. Like, it is absolutely brilliant. But yeah.
Can we go back to like for kind of forgetting this recent playthrough? So I guess was it after college you were, or like was it in the middle of college you were playing Skyrim?
Oh, I think it was after college. When I then got a job that was nothing to do with what I did at college and was incredibly bored and had nothing better to do and decided to immerse myself in a different, you know, in a game, and, you know, Skyrim came along and I spent pretty much every waking moment playing it. I mean, this is the type of gamer that I am. I get obsessed with games, you know. It's like there's been a few, and you know, Final Fantasy VII was one of them. That took over my life, the original, might I add. And yeah, Skyrim. So I became a vampire, joined the Thieves Guild. There was that, I can't remember that with the handprints, there's like a bunch of people who kidnap you and then make you go and kill people.
Dark Brotherhood.
Dark Brotherhood, yeah, and that was really cool. I've done that, and the Imperial and the Stormcloaks, is it sort of that sort of battle? There's just so many, every possible avenue that you could do. And I remember when I first started playing it, thinking this game will never end. There's far too much to do. There's too much to explore. I can spend an eternity here. I never have to leave. And you do get to a point, and it's really sad. You're like, I kind of done everything now, and I'm kind of. And then obviously they brought out a few expansion packs, which I'd highly recommend. And I don't know if any of you guys tried it on survival mode, which I think it was. So for the 10-year anniversary, I play it on PlayStation 4, and you can add a bunch of mods. Some of them are really silly and you just for fun, but I like to play Skyrim with some mods. So for example, things like just like more realistic weather and stuff like that. And one of them is survival mode. And I think for people who perhaps enjoy games that are a little bit more realistic, it's really good. So for example, it thinks about things that you wear, whether you're cold or warm, that affects your stamina. So if you put on like a fur cloak, it will say you're feeling warmer now, so you can like die of being cold. You have to think about food and what you're eating. You have to think about sleep. And also it's realistic in the damage. So, obviously armor does make a difference, but it's, a few hits and you're dead. But then the same goes for the enemies. So you have to be much more strategical.
And is this fun? Because
that sounds well stressful.
Some of it sounds cool, but then I'm like, well, it's still at its core is Skyrim. And as Ollie said, I'm thinking about how janky and weird. I feel like the combat needs to be maybe more refined for that to not be annoying.
I think because you have the option on Skyrim to play in third person and in first person, it does make things like shooting with arrows and things or using magic, because you have the option to swap to first person. You can. It does make it a little bit easier, and I think it's just an option. It's something that people perhaps who love Skyrim and have played it to death, it gives them a whole new experience to be able to then go back to the game and play it all again in a completely different way and get something else from it. It's not something you have to do, it's an option. And I think they released it as as part of the 10-year anniversary. So at the beginning, it says, would you like to put on survival mode? And you say yes or no. So it's just another way that they've sell more copies of Skyrim, I suppose.
It sounds very intense, and sounds like you're very into it if you can play it on that difficulty.
I know it sounds, like I don't have ample time to game. You'd think that, picking something up that's really simple, like, Mario Kart, or like just something that's a really simple game would be a better way for somebody who doesn't have a lot of time to game and who has children to go. But honestly, just going into a world that's immersive, and I love gaming, but I have over the years I haven't had a great deal of time to dedicate to gaming as much as I would have loved to, and I always come back to Skyrim. Always.
Yeah, I see why survival mode will be useful, because you really die so quick. It's good if you don't have much time, because it's just like, oh, you stepped out without your coat on. Yeah. Oh, that's good. I don't do the dishes anyway. That's fine. That's no problem.
A crab, or it's like a crab has nipped you with its little pincer, and all of a sudden you're like, I'm dead. It's fine.
I did.
Sorry.
No, I did use some graphics mods.
That's what I was going to ask about, the mods, because it's quite cool that there's mods on console as well.
I've never.
Is it the only example of that?
I don't know.
Oh, Fallout. I guess that's kind of makes sense.
But so I did like one that made the 3D models better, one that made the textures better, and I think that was all I did.
There was a lighting one, I think, because you sent
lighting.
You sent me what you were using, and I had to copy it, which was a pain, because it's so cool that there's mods, but the tool for searching for them and finding them is awful.
Put the exact name in, the exact name of the mod in. But what it did on mine is it changed all of my location names to French.
Really?
Like, it was fine. Like, it's easy enough to figure out what they were. It was like Temple de Magic rather than Magic Temple or whatever. It's like,
I was gonna say, a bunch of the names I probably wouldn't know the difference. Like
Winking Skeever was something really funny in French. It was like Le Pervers something. Like
Skeever.
But it's also very telling that I went on mods and clicked on popular ones, and they're all like more attractive female characters, or
bikinis.
Like change the female armor.
Put them all in bikinis.
Yeah, it literally is
so they die of cold.
Right, Ollie, so I want to find out, so you were saying obviously like the combat is, it is what it is, like it's functional, But
not
you know,
the worst.
it's a bit clunky. And then, as we said, like some of the dialogue, both in the writing and the delivery, isn't great. But you said that the game is great, and I agree with you. So, like, what is it about Skyrim compared to like other sort of fancy RPGs that has made it like stand the test of time and is still beloved to this day?
Ooh. I think what makes it stand the test of time is probably the mods, the ease of modding it. The fact that it has a modding thing in the menu. You don't even have to have, if you're playing on PC, you don't even need technical know-how to do it. And I was looking at mods that I couldn't get on my console that I was like, oh my god, I wish I could have that. Like, people have modded the whole fighting system from the newest Assassin's Creed game into Skyrim. So every time you draw your sword, it changes to Assassin's Creed, basically. And it's like, that would be so good. And I was like, I wish I could install that, but I couldn't. And like, people have made all sorts, like new martial arts, whole new stories. Like the Forgotten City was a Skyrim mod. I even saw that on the mod store on the console. The Forgotten City was on there. I think that is what keeps it popular. Because, I mean, like, compared to The Witcher 3, which, to be fair, I've not played, but I understand it's probably much the same. Like, it's an open world fantasy game.
I mean, that is my point of comparison is Witcher 3, but, like, Witcher 3 is, like the story is like each mission, like just the characters are like their characters. They have different voices. The dialogue is written and performed so much better. They feel like personalities. Like the way I felt like the stories are in this one, the quests, is it feels like I could tell you the story of what happens and you would almost get as good as a time getting the story as if you played it. It's almost like it's all just been like told you. There's not much like happening, or it's not like the expressions of the characters doesn't give you very much. It almost feels like I'm playing like a D&D campaign where it's much more about just...
Somebody could walk in the room and see you playing Skyrim and go, this is an incredibly boring game. Like, what are you doing? Like,
it looks so dry.
It really does, but you really have to be in it to, you know, it kind of... there are some, you know, side quests and things where it's like, collect the amulet of... solitude or whatever, and you're like, why? I don't want to be honest. I'm kind of busy.
But they do such a good job. It will be get the amulet of blubber and you think, okay, it's a fetch quest, but then you get back, it's like there's two people having an argument and it turns out, oh, you stole it from me and you're trying to and it's like there's like some thing and it's like, oh, do I want to give it back to them or not? They often will set up like, oh, a very normal quest. But then it's like, oh, but there's a dark secret. Did you go to the secret thing behind his closet? There was a secret door there. Like, I feel like they have really cool ideas for the design, but then they have so many of them that once it gets to the point of actually like scripting the dialogue and the performance, that is where it takes a hit, and that's where I think it kind of holds the game back. But the rest is so good and so open and so freeing that you kind of just like forgive it a little bit and just go
I definitely
go along
did.
with it.
I definitely 100% did. Like, I think the way that the stories unfold and what you're seeing is like, it's unmatched by anything else. Like the fact that you could be walking along and someone will say like, oh, my daughter lives in Whiterun, and you just ignore it and you carry on walking. Then it's like,
I'll
if I speak to that person, if I speak to that person, they'll say to me like, can you go and speak to my daughter? Because it's like, it's not throwaway, like it's an actual thing. And then that will turn into like a story that will have a beginning, a middle and an end, to the point where all of these little things that people say are almost given the same amount of weight as the main story.
And as somebody
so you don't even know if you're doing the main story or not.
You don't know. I think somebody, because obviously I'm going into it like second time round, so I kind of know what all the main side quests are. But for somebody going into it who genuinely has no idea where the game's going to take them, that first moment when you're at the beginning of the game, when you're in a carriage and you've been arrested, and you know you get off the carriage, slay a dragon as you do, and then that bit when you're just about to start and the whole sandbox the whole game just opens up and you're just left like, right, where do I go? What do I do? For me, that is despite the flaws, is something that is so incredibly exciting. There's something so amazing about that. Just to be able to go do what you want, and it's such a beautiful game, and this, I mean, the soundtrack, I haven't even spoken about the soundtrack, is so incredibly epic. I put it on the other day for the first time, and Rupert was in the room just, you know, in his bouncer watching the telly,
That's Heather's husband.
do,
if
as you do.
people don't know.
I was going to make that same joke.
Too slow.
And like I left the load screen on. Like I turned Skyrim in and then went to make a cup of tea. And then I was like listening in the other room. It's like do 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 do. And I went in and Rupert was just wide-eyed looking at the TV. And I was like, "Oh, it's okay, darling. It's okay."
Yeah, Rupert must be the Dragonborn.
like,
That's what it is. He could really. It was calling to him.
Yeah, just like, you know, walking, the music, just having that freedom with the beautiful music in the background, with the beautiful scenery, not knowing where the story's going to take you, and like just things like the Dark Brotherhood. I remember that just crept up on me, like that whole storyline. I didn't really know anything about it, and it just crept up on me, and all of a sudden I was unconscious and in this room, and the storylines started to unfold. I had no idea that was going to be as big as it was. You know, I thought it was just going to be a little thing, and just to let the game naturally unfold. I mean, 16 hours, I mean, that took me that long just to make my character, you know.
Yeah.
Let alone...
So that was Greta the Kind, wasn't it? That's that storyline, if you remember. Dark Brotherhood. We actually got a comment about that from the Shazler, which is a great username. Said, my funniest memory had to be killing Greta the Kind, because I was playing with my friend and none of us knew that she dies in just one hit. So I ended up right hooking her and her body flew all the way across the room. But then, like, when you do that, when you kill her, because I've just done it, all the kids run in like, "Oh, Greta!" So I can imagine if you just like lamped her.
So I got a question about that. So when you're playing, I'll start with you, Heather. When you're playing these games, like, obviously, because you're normally playing games like making moral decisions, are you like, "Oh, I'm playing a character and this is what my character would do. I'm going to join the Dark Brother and be evil," or are you trying to match it up to like your own morals? So
I kind of have a bit of a storyline going on in my head. So I'll think a little bit before I start playing, like, who do I want this character to be? What would he or she's background be up to the moment they got caught and the game begins? You know, sort of maybe make up a little bit of an arc for them, and let that kind of dictate what kind of decisions I make as the game unfolds. So, and that is something I think that you can do by playing the game more than once, is you can create different characters and let, you know, think, "Oh, this time I'm going to be a Nord and I'm not going to use any magic because I don't believe in magic and magic is bad." And then, you know, the next time I'll be a dark elf. Like, I only use magic. I don't use swords. Swords are for Nords and I don't like Nords. And so on. You know, you just make it your own. Like, properly role playing. It's so nerdy, but it's like, it's the stuff I love. So in this game, I am invested. I am.
You're deeper than I thought you were.
I'm drowning, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah, do you know what the
I'm
weird
not
thing
even
is,
trying
though?
to get up to the top. I'm just like,
Heather's equally as deep into the Bugs Life video game, which is weird. Just the same level of passion. And
this time I'm going to be a centipede.
Morally, what kind of centipede are you going to be? What direction?
So the reason I asked the question is because I joined the Thieves Guild because I just knew people said that was good, and they're in like this city called Riften, and I was joined them, and then like they just do horrible things, like they're just horrible people, and then like, I'm going, then all the time I spend in Riften, I'm talking to people, and they're like, "Oh, you're not part of that Thieves Guild, are you? They just ruined this whole city. Oh, I hate it." I'm like, I kind of want to stop doing these quests because they're just so horrible.
But the thing is, most side quests in Skyrim, they do allow you to take either direction. There is nothing stopping you going into the underground place in Riften where they have their base and just killing everyone if you wanted to.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you can
just steal all their stuff. I had the thought, was like, should I just keep trying to steal from them? Because what they're going to do, moan? They're the Thieves Guild. You trained me.
I'm going to make my own Thieves Guild. I'm going to be my own Thieves Guild. How do you like them apples?
I'm the Thieves Guild. What about you, Ollie? Did you, because obviously you joined the Dark Brotherhood, and I'm assuming that they're not doing lovely things. Like, did you like not like doing those things? Because I know you tend to play the good characters.
Well, funnily enough, I killed Greta the Kind, who's the evil orphanage owner. I thought that's a good thing to do. Then you go to sleep and you wake up in the Dark Brotherhood, and they're like, "You've got to kill one of these people that has a contract on their head." So if you kill one of them and then I'll do something. But it's like kind of vague what you're doing. So I killed one of them and she was like, yeah, now you're part of the Dark Brotherhood, but I don't have any missions for you. So
you're like, oh, well,
see you
never
some other
mind.
time.
See you later then.
So I was like, okay. So then I was like, oh, I should actually join the Imperials because I played as an Imperial. So then I got the Dark Brotherhood armor and then I just went straight to the Imperials and I'm like, what can you do for me? And they gave me like their really good stuff, so I just did their missions instead. Just ignored the Dark Brotherhood.
So did you not complete the Dark Brotherhood quest to its end?
No, they never gave me a quest. They just said, she just leaned against the door and she was like, I don't have anything for you right now. I have no contracts for you.
Oh.
So just go about your time and then come back.
Do you know what? I think that might be because I'm not 100% sure, but I think that might be because you have to complete the Imperial and Stormcloak war. You know, you have to pick a side. I think when you've completed that, you can then go back. I think.
Right.
I'm not 100% sure.
Okay,
I remember there being something like that.
I did quite a few Imperial missions. So like the one where you go and get the Jagged Crown, or was one like in a huge tomb.
Nah, I was Stormcloak all the way. I was like, I'm joining the rebellion. Okay. I just basically compared it to Star Wars.
I'll tell you why I joined the Imperial. So when I started, basically whenever I play these games, I don't like roleplay. I just think like, what's the best thing I can get out of this? And reading the character creator, it was like, this guy can persuade people. And I was like, that sounds good. And that was enough for me to pick that character or that race or whatever it is.
What race did you choose?
Well, I was just a human guy, but I was an Imperial whatever.
A human like class, Imperial man.
Yeah,
that's nice.
You're pretty boring.
That's the most boring.
Yeah,
but I guess on World of Warcraft as well.
Yeah,
I picked a
Vanilla Legionnaire. Yeah.
You could have been a cat.
Yeah. To be fair, there was one cat guy, and he was like really weird. Every time I walked past you, he was like,
they're into skooma.
You come speak to me.
Do you have any skooma? I would like to eat some skooma.
Yeah.
Give me
skooma.
So
I was a cat last time. So this is my third time playing it. So I played on 360, never finished it. Then I played it again when it came out on Switch, and I was a Khajiit, whatever it is. Then.
Khajiit. Yeah.
And this time I was a high elf, so I was doing spells in one hand, and then like either a sword or an axe in the other hand, which was quite a fun way to do the combo. But this was the first time I finished it, and I realized that and it sounds stupid, but a big reason I didn't finish it the last time I played was I got fed up with loading times, going in and out from like the world to a place, and it loading. Was all, and I don't know why I bought it again on the Switch thinking that would be any better. It was like, it just takes too long and it makes me not want to explore. But then playing on the Xbox Series X, because it's got an SSD, it loads so fast. Like often it will just fade to black and fade back in. And I was like, that's like game changer. Especially because you do a lot of fast travel, zipping around the map, going, I need to sell this stuff. Fast travel here, go in the shop, leave the shop, fast travel. Like that, has turned that from like a 4-minute thing to like a 1-minute thing. And I think that might be enough to keep me going.
In survival mode, you can't even fast travel. You have to go everywhere on horse or foot.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a mod to remove the load times, by the way. So
what?
I think you have to load when you step into a town, but then all the buildings are loaded. And then when you go into the open world, obviously it doesn't load. So you have to go through your gate load time, and that's it. And then you can walk in and out of shops without it loading and buildings.
Game changer.
Oh, that's crazy. Is that like PC only?
No, it's on console.
Why didn't we all do that one? That sounds amazing.
I think it's called like Limitless something or other. But anyway, just because you just mentioned that fast travel, I think that's actually a bit of a double-edged sword, really, because it's like, on one hand, you're like, okay, I'm just going to open up my quest log. Boom, there it is. Fast travel. Go there. Grab the thing. Load the quest log. Yeah, I need to go back. Fast travel back.
But it sort of takes something away from the game, doesn't it? Don't you think?
Yeah, I'm like, am I robbing myself of something?
Yeah,
and also,
like you don't know who you're going to bump into or what's going to happen along the way.
And I felt like I was weak the entire time I was playing. Like, I don't think I got... I actually think I never got the hang of the game.
Do you know what?
I was just like... every fight I struggled with.
I thought I was a really impatient person, especially when it came to gaming. I'm quite notorious for just being like, it's too hard, I can't be bothered, just I'll look up how to do it because I don't have a lot of time. But actually talking to you, I'm like, I'm an incredibly patient person. I took this very seriously.
The only way I seem to be able to win fights is by using scrolls, because otherwise I would just get hit. If you have 2 people come for me, I'll just die.
Oh, and you're there.
straight.
The thing is, though, if people are coming to you and you're just like, oh, just one moment, let me just get out of my scroll and open that.
No, that's the only way I
and
could
start
win.
reading
That's the only way I could win. Like, if I use my axe, they would just kill me. Or I'd get hit by arrows, or like, I'd try and get magic out, and my magic meter would just go, would like drain in like a second. And like,
I think you need to
was just-
specialize. Maybe that's what it is. You're trying to do everything.
trying to be
and,
good
like,
at everything at
nothing's
the same
leveling up.
time.
I was going on Google and I was literally writing like, I don't understand Skyrim. Like, I don't understand how to play this game. Like, what
See,
am I doing
understand.
wrong?
I understand it entirely. So I think you and me were at different ends of the spectrum.
We need the middle ground. Maybe Joe is the middle ground.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I understood it a bit.
the perfect
So-
team.
The way the difficulty works is so a lot of the enemies like they scale to your level, which I get your opinions in a sec, but like I never like that because it's like you've leveled up, you've got stronger, and all of the enemies have. So it's like, well, what are we doing here?
Well,
like,
what's the point then?
We might as well
What is the point?
be where we started off. Like, obviously, you're getting new abilities, which is fun things to play around with, and more powerful spells that look more spectacular. But then if you're making all of the enemies stronger, it kind of feels like. You're like, I like it when you get really overpowered and then you go back to an area you were before and you're just stomping the guys that used to like cause you trouble.
Oi,
it feels
remember
good.
me? Remember me?
Yeah.
In my furs and in my hide. Well, look at me now. I'm wearing glass.
I recognise you. Like, yeah, you do, mate. You do
Yeah,
recognise
yeah,
me.
mate.
Two wielding great axes, just like
Yeah.
spinning, taking them all out.
Level
And
50 now, mate.
I know why they didn't do that in this game because in a lot of games you're progressing your character as well as the locations you're traveling to. So once you've finished an area, you often might not go back to it ever or rarely. Whereas in this game, you're constantly returning to areas and stuff. And so it could get to a point where almost the entire world, there's no challenge. And I think that's why they've done it. So I don't even know what the solution is. Did either of you have any opinions?
What they've done is like one of the quests that I got stuck on that I looked up, they were like, it scales starting at 15. So unless you're
Right.
level 15, you're going to be really far below what's going. So that was one I couldn't.
It doesn't
complete 'cause
necessarily
I killed
tell
in a
you.
single
I
hit.
think the game just
No.
lets you figure those sort of things out on your own.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what? This is too hard. I'm going to come back to this later,
That's
And
that's what I did. Yeah.
And like because some games you'll be like, oh yeah, it's a dragon, it's going to be tough, but it could be just like bandit, and it's like, oh, this bandit's suddenly really, really strong, even though they got the same gear because they're related to a quest rather than one I ran into.
Yeah.
Also kind of brings me just like in terms of other ways it's aged. I think like a lot of the UI is the waypoint system. The fact that like everything's white and like there's a lot of times you'd have several waypoints on a mission and there's no way to kind of know which one you want to follow. And even like the quick select for bringing up, like I was using a lot of spells, so like quick switching. And you kind of just have like one like list of all of your weapons and spells to switch rather than like a radial wheel or some like more dynamic way to do it. I think that's the area where it's aged most. Obviously the animations and the bugs have aged, but they were kind of a bit out of date when the game released. I think it is the gameplay, the mechanics and the UI where it's most notable. Did you kind of think that, Ollie?
I did like the UI. Like, it's a bit hard to use, but in terms of like how it looked, I thought it looked really nice. Like,
I like when you bring up the menu
modern...
and it's like up for map and down. Like that was nice. But like when you're switching between spells and all like the map and the waypoint system, like I found like that stuff not great.
I think it all goes together quite
the
well.
modernness of it was cool.
Like it looks pretty. It's not necessarily the most practical and the most easy to use. You don't really get any prompts, and like you get the arrows and you're not quite sure which one to follow, and you end up like, oh, I'm going over here, and you follow an arrow for ages, and then you're like, oh no, that was the wrong place. I'm really far away from where I need to be. But yeah, like I think it's manageable. I think because the game is, in my opinion, so good, it is worth putting up with those annoying things.
Yeah, it's just that was the point where it stood out where it aged. Like a lot of the time I bring up the map and I'm like, I can't even see where the waypoint is because it's like every icon's white and then it's like a little white arrow often hidden by another bit of like the time or something in the corner of the map. I'm like, I can't even see where it is.
The fact that it came out in 2011, so in gaming standards, it's an old game. It's a dated game, and you can certainly see that when you're playing it. You can see things that could be improved, but the fact that they have re-released it, I don't know how many times, too many times They've, you know, they're really sort of, you know, milking it a little bit with, oh, we're just going to release it again and give you a free sword or something. Three expansion packs, all the mods. Like, it's like the fact that people they keep going back. They keep going back for more. They constantly want more. They want they just want to keep revisiting the world. So despite all its flaws, I just think that Skyrim brings so much happiness and escapism to so many people, and people are willing to put up with the flaws because it's such an enjoyable game. And that's one of the many reasons I picked it, because it's just such an enjoyable game, and that's what it's all about, right?
I wonder if the new one, if it will still be as buggy. Like, is that part of their DNA now? Like, because their games are all
I'd
quite
be disappointed
buggy.
if it wasn't buggy.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's gonna.
Said I'd be disappointed if it wasn't buggy. It's part of its charm,
I think
right?
it depends. Like,
So, yeah.
some of the bugs, like I had some funny ones. Like I had some good.
I had some funny ones
This
too.
will be the section in the podcast for the video version where I'll just throw a bunch of my funny stuff that happened and fun ways the game broke. But I never had a game break. I never had a quest fail. I never, like, every time it would be like an NPC would be like, "We need to storm the castle. Let's walk there together." And I'd be like, "Oh no, don't get stuck or die on your way there." And I'm like they're like a toddler, and I'm trying to like babysit them there. Like, please don't break before you reach there. But they never did, to be fair. And obviously we were playing like the anniversary version, and you know, they squashed a lot of the bugs between then and the initial release. I know, especially on the original console versions, there was a lot of kind of performance issues and bugs.
It probably shouldn't
there.
have come out when it did. It was released very buggy. But I think as somebody going into it new, maybe who hasn't played it before, I think now's a pretty, you know, I think there's a lot less bugs. You're not gonna, you know, get into a pickle where you're stuck in a cave and you can never leave, and you end up losing hours of gameplay, which was one of the most frustrating things. But I think it's pretty good now.
It's so updated all the time with mods and Bethesda updating it that pretty much the best time to play it is whatever day you're thinking of playing it. Like, it's not getting any worse.
Every waking
Like,
moment is when you should be playing Skyrim.
I did have quite a good bug of so during the big Whiterun war battle scene thing, the woman, the like Sergeant Ligate or something her name was, she was like, "Right, everyone charge behind me," and then she got stuck in a falling animation. So she was gliding along the floor like towards the enemies, like leading the charge. I was just right behind it with
Like, is this normal? It's probably fine. This is probably fine.
My favorite stuff is like, and I'm not even sure if it is bugs or they just didn't care. Like, there's like a mission where it's like, "Oh, you have to go and like rescue my brother," and so I went and like saved this guy's brother and like brought him back, and then like I go in like their house with the. And then like I go in the house with the brother there, and then like the other brother's in there, and he like kind of runs up to me and just completely ignores his brother. He's like, "Thank you so much for saving my brother. I really missed him." And like,
Is he
"Here,
like, hello?
take this gold and stuff. Thank you." And it's like, you did completely ignoring the bro. He's just standing
Dude, I'm
behind there
right
like
here.
that. And then just he finishes talking to me, and they just both walk away from each other. And it's just like, it's
In
not
opposite
a bug, but
directions.
it's just like. And then another bit which wasn't a bug, it was just a story moment. There's like this old like alchemist or something, and he was like dying, but he's got his apprentice, and I just needed to find this one final thing before he died, and I go and I find this thing and I give it to him, and he's so happy, and then he just dies in his bed. And then like the apprentice like doesn't do anything, just goes up to me and goes like, "Oh well, he's died now, but it's probably for the best, and now thing has been cast on.
This
Would you like this
storyline
or
has
this?" I'm like,
wrapped up.
"Thank you." And he's like, "Bye." And I'm like, this is like he's spent his life like learning from this like grandmaster, and then he dies and he's like, "Oh well," and like, oh, it was so funny. It's like just so there's no emotion at all.
Yeah, especially there's no emotion in their facial expressions either. It's just
No.
they'd be like, say, you just zoom up to their face and they're going through something really traumatic, and it's just complete deadpan, and you're like,
Yeah.
are you okay? Are you? I will admit that I did spend. I'm gonna go 2 hours piling books on top of each other, which may or may not have been inspired by a certain YouTube video I watched for research for science.
How high did you get? Did you beat us?
Well, I can't remember how many books you both individually stacked. I want to say one was like 3, not very. And what was it? I can't remember how many you guys stacked.
I think Joe at one point got like 7 or 8.
Yeah,
I
you know he's doing good when they start accordioning, I guess, when they start like bouncing up and down like an accordion. Like
when they started accordioning, 12. So just putting it out there.
Whoa!
I think that's got to be a record. Did you have to go into like a roof of a building and start dropping them?
No, I'm not crazy. That would be insane. What are you talking about? That's not how you play Skyrim. What you do is you stand on the ground and stack books on top of each other.
but you can play like that. Like I think it's just cool, as you were saying, Heather, like how long of a life this game has had. Well, you as well, Ollie. But like, there's a lot of games that have a long life and have like a lot of support and have a loyal fan base, but they tend to be like multiplayer games or online games. And the fact that this is, you know, an entirely single player game, but still has like this, you know, avid community that have stuck with it and new people coming in all the time. Like that's not unheard of, but there's probably not another one that's done it like
it's
Skyrim.
Rare. No, and I think that just shows how amazing the game is, because it's such a, you know, you're very much on your own. You're not, you know, it's a game that you play in a dark room on your own with the curtains closed. You know, you don't involve other people when you're playing Skyrim, but somehow it also feels really immersive. Like there is there are so many people out there who just love this game. It's got such an amazing fan base, and you're never far away from, you know. I mean, you get stuck anywhere on Skyrim, you are sorted. You're one click away from you know.
Have you well, were you not ever tempted to go back to previous Elder Scrolls game, Heather? Like maybe Oblivion would be the obvious one, the one that came previous.
Do you know, from what I've read about Oblivion, is that they're not, I don't think, although they're set in the same sort of universe, the same world, you don't have to have played any of the prequels to this game to enjoy Skyrim. Like they're set in the same world, but they're not a direct sequel where like you're playing the same character or the same storyline. No. This is a very much standalone game. And
but
from
I mean,
what
you love Skyrim so much. It's, you know, it's like, I really love, you know, this flavor like sweet, like, but there's like all these other flavors, you know, of the same.
I love Die Hard 2. Like, have you seen Die Hard 1? Nah.
No, you don't need to.
I'm a Die Hard 2 man.
I've got time for listen, just Die Hard 2, that's all you need. I'm very much a watch Die Hard 2 and no other Die Hards kind of gal. I'm from what I've heard, Oblivion is a good game. So we're going back just one. I know that there's ones prior to that, but apparently from what I've heard and what I've seen and what I've read, it's not as interesting looking. I just think that I would be very disappointed I'm sure if I had come in earlier, I would have really loved those games and then built my way up to Skyrim. But I feel that coming in at Skyrim, I can't go back. I can't look back.
So I finished Oblivion back in the day, and it's like, if you believe it or not, it's even more dry than Skyrim. Like the menus are all like paper books, and so, you know, like it is.
Yeah, I've seen.
Yeah, and it's yeah, and it doesn't look as good, but it's not that crazy of a difference. And where I think it counts is all of the quests and like the stories within the quest, I think are on the same level as Skyrim. Like, and for me, I enjoyed it, like that part of it more, because I'd never played a game like it. And when it was like, go to this town and you got to like break into this person's house and take this item, I'm like, like there's a whole town here with just loads of houses and they're all real people. It's like, that blew my mind. So it stands out in my memory more. And I actually think I like.
Yeah, I think maybe one day, it's definitely a possibility that I'm sure I would enjoy it if I did. But I think for me personally, Skyrim, it is my sort of game in the sense that there's a lot to it. It's very immersive. But most of the games that I tend to play, and this goes for movies, for anything like that, I'm very character driven. You know, Last of Us 2. I mean, that if I could have chosen that, that would have been a contender. I'm very much this Skyrim, you know, for a start, the character doesn't have a name or a race. You kind of make it up as you go along. It's very dry. You know, the main character there is no main character. You know, it's you. I don't know how. For me, I don't know how many times I could play a game like that. Like, in the sense of, okay, I'm not just playing it, it's taking over my life, you know. So I'm really once it's done, it's like, okay, I need to move on to something a little bit more fun, a little bit more character driven, with, you know, bring something else to the table. I just don't think that I could commit myself like I did to Skyrim to a previous game, because it would take over my life, and it is very dangerous.
Yeah, I was going to say, because it's kind of ticking all of the boxes, but that might be the problem if you end up getting into it as much as Skyrim. But I personally, I prefer the setting in Oblivion, just because it's like Skyrim. It's just like, it's like there's a lot of beautiful moments and there is some variety, but it's all like cold mountains,
snowy hill.
Did you play the expansion? I can't remember what the expansion's called, but you get to go on a boat and you get to go somewhere new, and everyone lives in mushrooms.
Oh, Shivering Isles, yeah, I did, and there's like the Mad King of Shivering Isles. I did do that. And the other thing I like about Oblivion is I feel like it's got it's got the capital, which is like a big city, and that's the thing I think is, like, all of the settlements are quite small in Skyrim, but they all kind of talk as if they're bigger than they are. Like, the grand place. And I'm like, I mean, there's literally, like, I look on the map, there's like 7 houses here. Where's everyone live?
Are you sure?
Oblivion, it's got a big city and it's split up into sections as though the way they could do it. It's like a big tower and it's like districts. But that was always so cool to me, because it's like, this giant city, and then you'd spread out to, like, you would go north and then there would be a colder area in the mountains of the Nords, and then you'd go to the Mages area and it all looked a lot more distinct. And even like the generic stuff, like, I prefer the green grass and sunshine, I think, compared to the cold all the time.
Are you both discounting Elder Scrolls Online? Because that's newer than this.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. If it's online, does that mean you have to play with other people?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm out.
I never played it. I don't know.
I'm tapping out. I don't have time for others. I am very much this is my time. People. Okay, I don't get much time to myself. Like, I don't want to talk to anyone. Enough. But I can understand that. I do love my children, I promise. Just not as much as Skyrim.
We got like 100 comments about this game. People with questions and memories, which is like the only other game we've had that many for is probably Undertale, which was also mad. So of all of these comments, I've picked some out to read out, and I want to either congratulate or call out Drunk Lily, depending on how you want to take it, as being the only person to ask if we've taken an arrow to the knee.
Oh,
just one person.
That's not a congratulatory thing. That's a
call out. Then that's a call out. There you go. You've had it. Okay, so Heather, you're the pro here. We got a question in from Turtle Stick.
Okay.
Said, is there actually really old scrolls, or is it just a false advertisement?
There are many old scrolls. Not only... Full stop. That's all you need to know.
Is there 5?
There are at least 5 scrolls, maybe more. Yeah, of course there are scrolls. I mean, it's, they do various things. As you know, big fan of scrolls, Ollie.
As I know,
I'm a big fan. If you want to talk
user.
to a scroll guy, talk to Ollie. I mean, you're the scroll guy here.
You should see him on a mouse with the scroll wheel. He loves it. He just spins it all day long. He just anything
Me?
scrolls.
I love a good scroll.
Mate, I'm a Magic Mouse man. Everyone knows that. I'm a Magic Mouse man. I don't have a scroll wheel. It's like a piece of soap underneath my hand. Okay, we've got another question here. I'm someone who had... Oh, sorry, this is from Chris Portal. I'm someone who had heard so much about Skyrim, so I played the main story, and then a friend said I played it wrong because I missed out on the DLC. Should I go back and play it?
Yes, would be my advice. If you go into the game and think, right, I'm going to complete the main quest first, and then I'll go off and do some other stuff, you're playing it wrong. Obviously, there is a load of like downloadable content as well. There's loads of stuff that you can do to add to your game. Obviously, you've got the mods as well. But my advice would be just think of it as you don't know what you're going to do or where you're going to go, just go for a walk. I know it sounds really, really silly, but just think, I'm just going to go for a stroll and see what happens. You know, there's no particular order, but I actually think that perhaps the main quest is a little bit, am I allowed to say boring? It's a bit dry. The story's quite basic. It's not very long. It's almost like, we need a storyline, but I'm not really, let's just set it 200 years in the future, because then we don't have to worry about anything that's happened in the previous games. And I don't know, dragons are cool, I guess, so let's throw some dragons in, and mages are cool, right? Do you like cats? Right, we'll put some cats in, etc. And they've just kind of made up a basic storyline. But I mean, that is really not the point of the game. The point of the game is to just go and explore and make it your own. You know, go in your own direction.
Yeah,
you're right, Heather. But this might be a controversial point. I think Skyrim's actually, in some ways, not great for exploring, because so many of the things you discover, like the caves and all the caverns and dungeons and stuff, like they're tied to quests from people from elsewhere. So I almost feel like you kind of just want to go to the town, and then they'll say like, oh, you need to go to this dungeon for this reason, because a lot of them they'll be locked with a key, or you could even go quite through for a dungeon, but then there'll be an artifact you need to carry on. Compared to like even Fallout, I think is a bit better for where you're exploring. Much more of it is you'll find a place like an abandoned factory, and you'll go in, and there'll be an NPC in that place, and then there'll be a story that unfolds, or it's just a thing to find. I would be like, I found this dungeon, it looks cool, but I'm not going to go in it because it's probably tied to some quest I haven't done. I should probably just go to the town.
I completely agree with that. I completely agree with that. But, I mean, is Fallout somewhere you really want to... I mean, it's not a nice place, is it? You're not like, I'm just going to go for a little stroll and, radiation, I'm melting, my face is melting. Why did I just... I'll just have some cola.
I chose Fallout because it's obviously the obvious comparison. I wanted to say Elden Ring, but I always say Elden Ring. Elden Ring is a game where, like, that is the game where it's, like, 99% about exploring. And, like, I think, for me at least, I think what you're finding and the act of exploring in that game, like, got a level of, like, excitement and wonder and trepidation that just Skyrim just couldn't muster, you know? But it was
the thing is, though...
Sorry.
No, go on. Finish point. Sorry, I thought.
Yeah, I was just going to say, but like, what it's instead, what Skyrim got me was the twists and turns in a story, and Elden Ring's kind of vague to a fault sometimes. That, you know, it's not trying to do what Skyrim does, and I think that's where I think Skyrim, following the line of a quest line and how it diverges, is more fun, compared to like just wandering out into the wilderness to see what I find, because normally I'd find things that I'm like, oh yeah, this is probably tied to one of those cool quests.
Yeah, I was gonna, you kind of touched on it then, but I was gonna say, like, Elden Ring is like, you can do whatever you want as long as what you want to do is kill enemies, whereas Skyrim is more like, you can do whatever you want.
I'm going to eat a sweet roll and listen to some music.
I mean, those puzzles where it's like a whale or a wolf or a bird or whatever, and you're spinning those tiles. I don't know how many of that one puzzle I did.
I know.
They did one puzzle and they use it in all of these different places.
Yeah, but like in Skyrim, you can like buy a house and raise a family.
You can adopt children.
Yeah. That's crazy. Have children.
You can have a wife
someone
or a husband.
Wrote in MM14, so that they had a family that was two women, a son, and a mud crab. And they made that little life for themselves.
How romantic.
I mean, isn't that wonderful?
And just the fact that you can like pick up everything, like any place you go to, you can just like...
Well, that's a bit of an annoying point for me, because like they were like, oh yeah, you should read my book, and it'll be like on the counter, and then I'll be like try to pick it, make sure I don't pick up the wrong thing. Like it's like defusing a bomb, like moving around so it says read, not steal.
Did you ever accidentally steal something? So difficult not to steal. When you were trying to do that, and you'd be like, "Oh no, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to."
And they'd be like, "It doesn't belong to you," and then like I'd drop it, and then they'd still arrest me, and I'd be like, I dropped it where I picked it up.
I actually have I have a little story about that, which just makes me laugh so much. Is I went to a tavern and I found a bloke, and he was like, "Oh, I could hire me."
Or... Just check. Went to a tavern and found a
instead of
bloke.
Skyrim, this is a little story. In Skyrim, I found this guy and he was like, "Oh, I'll be your sellsword, I'll protect you." And I was like, "Okay," so I hired him. And then he was like, "What do you want me to do?" And I realized I could just tell him to like steal stuff. So he was like, "What do you want me to do?" I was like, "I'll steal that broom." And he went and like stole this broom. I just found it really funny that like he's like this, "I'm this strongest warrior, I'll never let you down," and like used him to steal a broom. But he died in a cave. And I'd kind of forgotten about the broom thing. Then I went to loot his stuff to get his armor or whatever. And I saw the broom and I was like, oh, like he was like a little personal connection to him. Then I was like, oh, I remember when I made him steal that broom all that time ago. And
he
that
kept
is
it with
that
him.
kind of story is what you don't get in Elden Ring. Like those kind of your own stories that you kind of create.
Yeah, you have to use your imagination a little bit. You do have to fill in the gaps.
Absolutely.
And I think... but the fact that it doesn't look, it has aged a bit. That's kind of part of its charm, right? You can fill in those gaps of your imagination, and you can make, you can just make
and
it.
I think it was the generation it came out on. It was the graphics are just good enough that they're going to be fine forever. Like I think maybe if they tried a generation earlier, like maybe like Morrowind, I feel like that might be harder to go back to. Whereas I think Skyrim, it was like, later on like 360 PS3, it just got good enough where like the PC version and remasters are going to be fine
It
forever.
hit a sweet spot, I think, that just got it right. And
the mods as well.
Oh, it's so good.
The mods are like can fix it forever. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
and controversial way to play Skyrim. So I'm assuming we all remember GTA, Grand Theft Auto. Yeah,
of course.
Thanks for clarifying.
What could I?
Biggest selling game ever. I don't remember that.
Do you remember it?
The Great Turtle Affair. What does GTA stand for? I don't...
So I used to, like the 5-star challenge, where in GTA, where you're like, right, I'm just gonna be as bad as I possibly can. That, right, hear me out. That. But in Skyrim, right? So you choose a town, Whiterun, Riften, whatever you fancy, doesn't matter, irrelevant. Choose a town and think, I am going to cause havoc in this town, kill everybody, steal everything. Time yourself. How long can you survive for? Play with friends. Who can survive the longest, before getting imprisoned or, it is...
That sounds
really
like
fun.
a best of 3 in the making right there.
I know. And if you haven't got a lot of time, you think, oh, I've got a quick 10 minutes. Feeling a bit angry. I'll just go and kill some town folk and some wandering
You do
chickens.
the risk-averse quick save.
Yeah.
Like you think about, I can't do that. I'd think about doing something and I'm like, quick save first before I try this.
Better safe than sorry.
So we got a lot of good memories, people writing in about stuff that they've done. These two are my favourite. So the first one is like, so this guy is written into a podcast. Obviously, you can say anything you want, and this is what he chose to share with us. So Brady Fulham said, the opening scene was so cool to me as a kid. I would keep restarting the game with a different character to replay it, and I would let them arrest me because I like going to prison. I was weird.
I wonder where they are now.
Yeah.
The beauty of Skyrim is you can get arrested as many times as you like.
Yeah, I love this game. I love getting arrested.
You should check out the rest of the game, though. It's pretty good as well.
Well, okay, we've got another one like that. So this is another one. Improbable Vince says, my first introduction to a large open world, Skyrim blew my mind as a kid in 2011. So much so, I remember being so intimidated by the scale that I stayed in Whiterun, stole all of the Jarl's silver bowls and jugs, sold them off, and repeated. That was the entire game for me.
Hey, play it how you want to play it.
Literally just robbing the king.
I remember in Oblivion, I joined the Mages Guild, and they had all like their like soul crystals and so on, and all like this apparatus and stuff. And like once you join the guild, it's not counted as stealing, and it just broke the economy of the game for me because they had like a guild's headquarters in all these different cities. And I just go out, show up, and they'll be like, "We got a quest for you. We need a mage." I'm like, "Nope," and I just go and steal all of their stuff and just sell it all. That was how I got my money in Oblivion.
I never got the hang of that, like powering up gems thing. So I get like weapons that you can reload, like an axe that you could recharge.
Yeah,
and it was like I would kill something after using the spell in it that I happened to find by chance that would like recharge a gem, and then it would be like, "Oh no, the gem's not big enough," so I wouldn't get anything from it. And it's like, I feel like the game has a bit of a problem with like it has so many systems, and they don't explain any of them.
Yeah, you are kind of thrown in the deep
end. So it's like you have to go and look it up. Yeah, so I wish that they would put something in the game. Like, yeah, they should put something optional in the game that like does help with that sort of thing. Like, because sometimes they have one message like, "This is an enchantment table. You can use it to enchant things," and then that would be it.
Yeah, but like, then also like
that's not enough to help me.
You can pick up various herbs and flowers and like bugs and stuff and make random potions. At the alchemy table, and you have no idea what you're doing. You're like, just chuck in a bit of lavender, a bit of this, bit of that, see what happens. And you could argue that that's kind of the beauty of it, is that you do have to discover these things for yourself. But yeah, I get what you mean. I get why that would be why that. I think you can take a lot of that out for yourself if you find that it's a bit too complicated. Like my other half Tom at the moment, he's playing as a Nord, and his story arc that he's kind of thought of is that he's totally against magic. Like, he doesn't agree that magic should exist or should be used in the way that it is. So he's playing the game as a Nord who refuses to use magic, and it is possible to complete the game without magic. You can, there might be a few little, I don't know, things that you have to do here and there because the game dictates it so. But generally speaking, you could take that out. You could just use magic. You could, so if you do find those sort of things overwhelming, the thing with Skyrim is you can kind of make it your own, and you can take out elements and swap and change them. You can try different races. And I think all the races have different attributes. You start off with certain qualities or things to help you in different ways. So yeah, you can kind of chop and change it if you wanted.
Yeah, I did miss out on because I had the blacksmith, and I streamed the game for a bit, and everyone was like, "Oh, you can level him up," but like, I never got a hint of how to do that. And also, I only ever found like one ingot or something like to make weapons.
It's a very slow.
So I was thinking in my head, like, I must be missing a huge part of this. I just don't understand because I'm not finding the stuff I need to do.
So you can
this.
find like ores and stuff, but like I think one of the cool things is that like you can just, as kind of Heather was saying, you don't have to engage with everything. Like most games, there's like these are the mechanics, and like with the developers are like, we've made this mechanic, so we're going to make you need to use it. And this one, it's like, this is here. If you want to be like a blacksmith, if you want to be like an alchemist or whatever, you can go down that path. I didn't. Like, there's potions everywhere. I never need to bother making my own. You can go back and play
it again. You can say, you can think, right, this time this playthrough I'm going to be this race, and I'm just going to use magic, and that's going to be my story arc. My story arc's going to be, that I come from a background magic, and I don't know, I was an orphan, and blah blah, whatever you think of, and yeah, you can just make it your own. And I think that is something that has kept people such as myself going back, and because I think there's only so much. It's an incredibly big game, but you do come to the end eventually, even with the expansion packs and the mods. So then to be able to think, right, okay, I'm going to do it again, but in a different way. This time I'm going to, I'm going to be this race, and I'm only going to use magic, and I'm going to, go to the dark side or whatever so you can replay it again and again, even when you've done everything. And I think that's one of the things that have kept the game going, kept it so popular.
Yeah. Do you think that definitely the expert here, do you think that the two-handed weapons are like generally quite bad, or was I just bad at it? I
tried it once. Not once, as in I've just, swung an axe once and thought, not for me. I gave it a good go. For a few hours, and I did not get. For me, having a shield and being able to not only block but stun the enemy using your stamina and sort of take them aback a bit to then be able to get a hit in. It was almost like doing a dance. You sort of hit them.
It's like you're waiting your turn.
Yeah, it's that little bit sort of turn taking. Obviously, you can intermix that with staffs, with magic if you want to. But with the two-hand, it's like, do you know what? I'm just going to go and just, cause absolute mayhem. Bish, bash, bosh. And then but there's no skill to it. I mean, you can't block really. Obviously, you do a lot more damage. And that's why...
Yeah, well, that's why I went for it.
But... Yeah, and for me, I am the sort of person who just charges in and, you know, all guns blazing. That's sort of my style generally. But
There's guns.
Listen, there's a mod for everything.
I didn't reach that level.
But yeah, for me, that made it really unfun. I did not like two-handed weapons.
I struggled with it, with the combat.
Yeah, you're just
like,
doing it wrong.
But, well, I think
playing it wrong.
I was struggling with the starting stuff that you get.
Yeah.
Because you don't start with a two-handed weapon. And then when I found my first two-handed weapon, it was like over double the strength.
Like, oh, this must be really good like, because, you know.
Exactly. Exactly. So then I started, but then I started leveling up that, going down that path. And then by the time I joined the Imperials and they gave me a shield, I was like, well, I can't really use it.
Yeah, because you haven't, and then you almost have to start again and think, well, now I'm going to have to, you know, learn how to use one-handed weapons and sort of build myself up. But then again, for other people, they might think that would be for them, and they think, do you know what, I'm a two-handed weapon kind of guy. That's how I'm going to play.
If you're using one sword, like, is it easier to hit enemies? Because like mine are like big swings, and it'd be like you'll miss, and then you're just like, oh, I've got to wind up again. Yeah,
so it feels heavy. It's incredibly sluggish. You know, your attack is sluggish, so you can't react quick enough to the enemies coming at you. Before you know it, they've hit you a dozen times and you're still trying to lift up your axe from the ground because it's so heavy. It's like sword in the stone sort of. But with one-handed, it's much lighter. You can swing it about, and obviously you've got the ability to use a shield, which you can also hit them with, as well as block, which takes them aback that you have a moment to think.
But my strategy was I was one-handed but magic, and so I would be attacking, and then just you can heal or use spells while attacking.
Yeah.
So I'd be continually healing myself while I attacked at the same time.
Yeah. The only drawback with that is with really like trolls, like when you're sort of at a lower level and you're there's trolls and things that takes like 2 hits and you're down, is that the healing, it won't heal fast enough.
Not quick enough.
You still have to block. So it's not foolproof, but it's definitely.
So I was all magic. I would use a spell to like put my defense way up, and then I would have my healing or whatever ready. Yeah. And that like carried me through.
And
pretty
the good thing
fine.
about the magic as well is it's so you know, you start off with, say, like obviously you've got all the elements, right? You've got frost, you've got frost, is that an element? Water, you know what I mean? Fire, earth, etc. So you start off just being able to make a flame, which takes X amount of magicka, like not very much. Then that builds up to fireball, and then when you're an expert, you can incinerate, where it's literally one short blast and everything in your vision incinerates. You know.
Oh wow!
So you can become incredibly. You can also go to a college. There's a college where you can go to train as a mage, and
I did that.
Yeah, it's really fun. You get your own dorm. It's like Hogwarts.
Yeah,
like, and then you get a little.
And then I became the
archmage
as well, and I got like the archmage's robes, and I could go in the archmage's quarters, which is like this a beautiful tree in it and stuff. Like that was probably my highlight. Was all of that stuff.
So for me, this wasn't this playthrough, but in a previous one where I was all magic. 100% magic. My character's name was Raven because ravens are black, and I was dark and evil, jet black hair. And I was like, I'm going to be evil and do evil with magic. And I went to the college, and I was like, oh, maybe being evil isn't a good thing to do. Maybe, you know, and that was kind of my story. And I was like, oh, you know, it's like I started off as a Slytherin and ended up.
Turns out I'm a Hufflepuff.
I was
Turns out it was a phase. It was a phase after all.
Oh dear. Are there any more burning questions, Ollie, from the community, or shall we try and find out where Skyrim belongs on the list?
Just one thing that was pointed out by Dr. Pork, who actually made a really good point. Do you think Skyrim has overshadowed the other Elder Scrolls games? It feels like more people now know Skyrim than would know the Elder Scrolls.
I didn't know anything about the other games when I played Skyrim. I didn't know Oblivion existed.
I think this is the example. Is Heather's the example? The fact that Skyrim is one of her favorite games, and you haven't even like tried out Oblivion.
No,
and you didn't know there was another one.
And they're the same console generation. They're not that different. Like it's the fact that you've played Skyrim multiple times and haven't even like played Oblivion. I think that just shows that Skyrim reached a new level of popularity so far beyond.
Yeah.
Do you think they should call the new one Skyrim too?
No, because it's Skyrim's a location. Like
Yeah, but Skyrim's what they know. Everyone knows Skyrim. That's what I'm saying.
No, like what it is like the hardcore, whatever, the dedicated gamers, they are the ones that create a thing being popular, and then that word of mouth spreads to the wider gamut. You know, any game, even Fortnite or Call of Duty, any of these games, it starts off with a core dedicated group that can spot these great games, and then it will start spreading from there. And they know about Elder Scrolls, so it will get, the word will spread that this is the one after Skyrim.
There's
from
no
that
way
group.
you could call it, I don't know, Fluffy Kittens or something ridiculous. It's got such a fan base and it's so popular that people are waiting for it. They are poised, and it doesn't matter what it's called, what form it comes, how far in the future it is, what the storyline is. We will be there for it. I will be here for it. The next chapter. I'm ready.
It does seem like an impossible task for them to make a follow up to this. I couldn't.
Yeah.
But it's so open ended and like huge. It's like, how do you follow this up?
I don't know.
But then again, you could think the same for Fallout 3, but then playing Fallout 4, I was disappointed because I was like, how are they going to follow up Fallout 3? And I was like,
well, they didn't.
Oh, they kind of did the same. They haven't even it's even the same like soundtrack basically. You know, it felt too similar.
It's been
and
too
the excitement
long. I mean,
of
what
it
was the
being
gap
new
though between Fallout
done.
3 and 4? Like, it's not. I mean,
yeah, it was decent, but not
as much. So I think they've had enough time to sort of really.
Yeah.
I think even like graphically, the difference is going to be so huge purely because so much time has passed. Not necessarily that they've put in a lot of time and effort, but the technology has changed. So it's already, you know, got the passage of time on its side. If they, you know, and I think it's popular enough that, yeah, that they're going to put in effort. You know, they're going to learn from maybe mistakes. I hope, you know, fingers crossed.
And now it's obviously it's going to be a Microsoft game now, so the budget, which would have already been crazy, is basically endless now. the amount of time and money they can spend on it is almost infinite, 'cause, you know, they know they're going to make it back.
Yeah. I'm fully on board.
Right.
I
They've got at least one.
Yeah, there's a guaranteed pre-order.
I'm just going to be there, like with foam hands and like, worst, biggest.
Is that the new
fan.
class? new weapons.
Doing spells like.
Should we put it on the list?
Yeah, let's put it on the list.
This is sort of the first time I mean, I have seen your list. I mean, I'm a big fan of the.
Wait.
We started.
Oh, we're back. We're back. Okay.
Yeah, come on.
Okay, go in. We'll finish your point, Heather. I apologise.
Are you sure? Shall I? Are you sure? You ready?
Well, unless you want to put one of my games down.
Who put Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets on the list?
So
I'm the one who suggested it as a game.
It?
Right. So it's always a joint decision where it ends up on the list. Okay, we debate. I was the one who suggested we play Harry Potter.
Okay. What I will say, I mean, I know we're not actually talking about Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, but I'm diverting just slightly. I'll loop back around to Skyrim. I promise. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets it had no right. It had no right, the soundtrack being that good.
Oh yeah,
I know. Yes. That's our takeaway.
Isn't it the same guy? Isn't it the same composer?
Unbelievable. Not only it wasn't. It was like we're going to take the Harry Potter soundtrack, which is already amazing. I mean, we're three films deep. The soundtrack is amazing. We're gonna take that and we're gonna make it even better, and we're gonna put it in this really terrible game.
I know.
So even when you're having a really terrible time, at least you can, you know, have a nice music in the background and. So
you haven't heard our podcast that we did on it, right?
I've sort of dipped in and out.
Because
that's basically the podcast. It's like, why is the soundtrack so good?
I can tell you why.
Go on.
One name, Jeremy Soule, was the composer of Harry Potter and Chamber of Secrets, and he was the composer of Skyrim. So there you go. That's
Shut
why.
the front door. Are you
That's true.
serious?
I've just googled it. Yeah,
That's
Jeremy Soule. Yeah. I just googled it.
Oh, what a talented guy! That is. How
Sorry,
can
I
you just be
stop
that
for a
talented?
second? The computer just responded to me talking and said, "I am serious, and don't call me Shirley." And I was so confused.
Oh, is that like a Siri thing?
It's like, Siri, pipe down. I'm trying to have a civilized conversation.
Yeah, there you go. That's the reason the music was so good.
Maybe I only like games with music composed by him, though.
By Jeremy
Maybe that's
Soule.
something
You found
that
your niche. Look up who did the Bugs Life soundtrack for the PlayStation 1.
100% it was the same. No, that was...
gonna look it up.
To be fair, the soundtrack to that wasn't great.
No, you
Wasn't
didn't do
great.
Bugs Life. You didn't do Bugs Life.
Oh, you couldn't
Shame.
get that prestigious gig.
Let me quickly see what other games he's done. Final Fantasy 6.
Oh, 7?
No, he doesn't look like it.
No.
Metal Gear. He's done Metal Gear Solid games. Dead Rising.
That figures.
Yeah, not a lot on
So
there
an
that
impressive
you might recognise.
catalogue of...
Briefly, before we dig into Skyrim, any other notes about the list? Anything that you thumbs up, thumbs down? What's this game?
I am very much I'm going to play this game for a decade and nothing else. So my experience, I love gaming, but I haven't actually played that many games. I have played Resident Evil, a fantastic game.
Yeah.
I've obviously played Last of Us and Last of Us 2 because I'm not stupid. I mean, you've got to play them.
I hadn't played them, but yeah.
Oh, well, you're stupid. Max Payne 3's on the list, and I'm very confused about that. I mean, that
About its position?
but just that it's on the list at all.
What?
Well, do you not like Max Payne 3?
Oh no, I'm going to get people hating on me. I like Max Payne, but hang on. Oh no, do you know what? I think I've confused myself. Oh,
Okay,
no.
what were you
It's
thinking?
alright if you don't like it as well.
Am I thinking of the one where they just thought, let's make Max Payne, but let's also make it like GTA? Is that later? Do you remember like the one where they had like the Rockstar front cover and it was like all like cool and they tried to... and it was
that was
set
Max
in
Payne
this
3.
was
Brazil.
That was Max Payne 3.
Yeah.
That is the one
That's
okay.
this one.
Then I hate it. And it
Yeah, so
my point
I'll point out,
stands.
for those listening, it's at rank 22 out of 27, so it didn't
True.
get very high.
No, it
Ollie, going into it, thought it was like one of the best games, and then after the conversation, I convinced him that it wasn't.
Yeah, that was a nice
Agreed.
episode. I'm just happy that the cameras didn't work for that episode because you couldn't see the tears running down my face.
Anyway, let's get to the matter at hand. So there are 26 games on the list, 27 rankings, because we have a gap between Ty the Tasmanian Tiger and Beyond Good and Evil, just because Beyond Good and Evil had to get knocked down because it has no inverted options, so I could barely play it. Just for anyone confused that didn't see the last episode to why that's that. So let's begin with you, Ollie.
Yep.
Just because I probably have a pretty good idea what Heather would say. Where would you place it if you had free reign?
I'd probably put it between 13 and 14. So probably 14.
Okay.
So it would make it 14. So that's one below Killer 7 and one above Warcraft 2. I kind of
Any
want to put it
reactions?
somewhere near Forgotten City. That's why I picked that.
Oh yeah, do you want to explain about the connection to the Forgotten City?
Yeah,
In
so
case people that can't
so the
remember.
Forgotten City started its life as a mod for Skyrim, and then it turned it into a full game. So they're quite connected.
Interesting.
And I quite like that. So that's why I wanted to put it near the Forgotten City.
So to that, I mean, that surely means it needs to at least be one higher than 11.
No.
Because
Forgotten City is
that's
really
sort of
good.
just because it's based on something that Skyrim, like that's the pioneer, that it was like, oh, that's so good, I'm going to take this little thing and make it into a game.
It doesn't really use any of Skyrim's things. It's kind of just uses
do-
the engine. It doesn't use
I'm just
anything
trying to
else.
get it higher up the list. I'm just
I know.
It's
I
got
you
it's
are.
got the
Throw in
sense
point.
of it, but it's got like great writing, and like what it is, it's set like it's like a time loop. You're in like this city that's under the ground, and then basically there's a rule that if anyone commits a murder or a sin, then everyone gets turned to gold, and someone's going to do a sin and you got to stop them, but it keeps repeating. So it's quite a cool setup.
Sounds
It is a
good.
bit mad that like it's started its life as a mod from Skyrim and then is now above Skyrim. That
I mean,
is like
it
that
sounds
does
like something
feel
I want to go and
weird.
explore separately for sure. But I think people would be extremely disappointed if you did not put Skyrim in the top 10. You would have people boycotting. You know, it would be mayhem.
No one's
Wouldn't
happy about the list. I'm not happy about it. Joe's not happy about it, and the people that watch aren't happy about it. So like,
Everyone has different opinions.
everyone has a different
We're
opinion
just-
on where things are ranked.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's your decision, but I think it's got to be top 10. It's one of the best games. You have to play it.
If it got top 10, it would push Kai's game Ooblets out of the top 10.
And
that-
can we also this might be a good time to mention, this podcast would not be possible without Kai. Not only is Heather recording in Kai's current office and Kai set it all up, Kai's also babysitting Rupert at the moment.
gonna
and
throw
as
her
this
under the bridge.
episode
Get
goes
rid of
up, it's
Ooblets.
Kai's birthday. So like huge shout out and thank you to
Yes,
Kai.
happy birthday as well, yeah.
And massive
Yeah.
thank you to Kai as well for babysitting and just putting up with the poo and the crying and the madness and anxiety and mayhem that is parenting. And big shout out to any other parenting gamers out there. I am here for you. It's hard. It's really hard to find the time. And yeah.
Shout out to my
it's
dad
mental.
then, because he plays games. I mean, I might be 31, but he
Shout
does
out
still
to your
play games,
dad.
and he's still my parent.
But you
so-
take just as much attention as a newborn. You need,
I go to his house, I poo myself, I cry all night. Like,
Oh dear. Right. Okay. Where do I want it? So I'm kind of.
well, should we see where Heather wants it first? Do you just want it in top 10, or have you got it somewhere in mind?
I think the top 4. I'll be honest. I'm not gonna be greedy. All right. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna say it should be number
No.
one.
What
I'm
would
not-
you want? What would your dream? Pretend we're not
My
here.
dream.
You're compiling
What
this
would my
list.
dream-
Where would it be? I
I
mean,
would
would it
put
be
it in-
above either of the Last of Us games?
No. I'd put it at 5, perhaps.
Okay. So you'd put Prey above
5,
it.
6.
Yeah, you could put it at 6 because these two are attached. So in order to put it at 5, you'd have to move them both.
That's fine.
So-
I'm willing to compromise because
Okay.
I'm clearly in charge of this list as it's coming across.
Yeah. So you'd have it about top
Okay.
5. So it's top 5 for you, really.
Yeah, top 5, definitely top 10. I would, if it wasn't in the top 5, I wouldn't be mad at it. But if it wasn't in the top 10, I think you'd be making a grave mistake.
Okay. Okay, thank
So-
you.
Heed my words.
Thanks for your guidance.
So I feel like
a wise one.
Heather
My
will be
liege.
in the I feel like Heather would be in the majority. Like I feel most people like it's got to be in a lot of people's top 10 lists of all time.
I mean, Yoshi
I feel
Island,
like-
it's fun. Ooblets, it's fun. No one's denying that it's fun, that it looks pretty, that it's cool. But Skyrim's more than that. It is not just a game. It is a lifestyle, people.
Wow, okay. We're in there now.
It's.
Is it a
you
lifestyle or a life ruiner? Because it's so so addicting and immersive.
do not play The Sims. That game is
Yeah.
evil. No. Yeah. It's the amount that has gone into Skyrim, like the amount that's gone into the soundtrack alone, which is unbelievably epic. Just the soundtrack alone should put it in the top 10, in my opinion. Not only the size of it. I mean, I know it's got its flaws, but the heart and soul has been poured into that game, and you cannot put Yoshi Island higher than Skyrim. That's mental.
Don't like the way you're singling out Yoshi here. I don't like that targeted.
Look,
Yeah, it's
I'm all
bullying.
for Yoshi. Yoshi is cute and everything, but come on, guys, like that. I mean, the line must be drawn here and no further.
I feel like
Okay.
Forgotten City is the line, just because of the where they're related. But Joe, let's hear it.
Okay, so this game isn't made for me. So like I tend to not like these
You're
kind of
right.
open
It
world
wasn't
games.
made for you.
It was not. It was this style of game is not my kind of game. Like following waypoints. Like the only open world games I really like are Zelda Breath of the Wild, like Elden Ring, and like even something like Metro Exodus. You'd kind of continue, and they're always games that the very vague games that you're kind of going out, you're exploring, they're not telling you anything, and it's a true sense of adventure. And I feel like this kind of has parts of that, but then like you'd also be in a quest and someone would say to me like, oh, you need to find this book and it's got this on the cover and it should be about this size. And I was like, okay, I'm in this library, let me go find this book. And then I turn around and there's like a waypoint on the exact book that I need to get. And like that kind of game design, I get bored of so quick. And this game is really all of that. The little individual stories and the little twists and turns of the quests went a long way to helping me. But in terms of like improving my gear and leveling up, that progression never felt satisfying for me. And then like a lot of like the core mechanics, I think even a similar game like Witcher 3, which has some similarities, like the characters and the dialogue, and then like when I ventured to like a new city and it was like a huge city and it's beautiful with all the harbor and it's bustling and it's full of like these crowds and stuff. And then I think that to Skyrim when I see the people walking around and the little kids walking up and staring you in the face and saying like, I sell vegetables with my mummy. And it's like, it's got a charm because of how gimmicky it is. But it's like, it's got a ceiling for how good that can be. It's just not really my kind of game, but I do still really enjoy it because what it does good, it does so good. But a lot of it just didn't appeal to me. So I think because of that, I would say put it one underneath the Forgotten City. So that would put it at number 12 and knock Driver San Francisco down one.
Isn't that where I said?
You wanted it one lower, I believe.
Well, near enough.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, we're in a similar area here.
I'm the winner, isn't the takeaway from this? Fine, you win.
I think,
right?
yeah,
You're happy?
I like that.
Are you happy?
That's perfect for me.
I'm not
very
mad
happy
at
with
it.
that.
I mean, you're right. I have a lot of fond memories of this game, a lot of nostalgia. I mean, it seems ridiculous. It's not that old, but it's just it gives me such a warm, fuzzy feeling, and a lot of that I think is to do with just the time it came out, being able to escape their COVID, a whole host of reasons. A lot of them personal to me. I can understand why it's not everyone's cup of tea. I can understand why people wouldn't be so committed as I have been to Skyrim. Some people just want to pick up a game and have a quick go to, just get some headspace or to, relax after work, whatever. So I get why it might not be everyone's top 10, but you're still wrong.
I think you're absolutely in the majority. I think more people would side, and be like, "What? You're putting like Ooblets above Skyrim?" Like, I understand, like, why you'll do that, but that's why this isn't a list of the best games of all time.
It's not.
This is a list of me and Ollie's personality of video games bunched together in list form. We're not even trying to pick the best games. No. Like, people say, like, why do you choose this game? Like, we're just picking games that would be interesting to talk about. And Skyrim is such like a monolith in the gaming sphere. I think like it would depend on your, if your gaming style or the sort of games that you tended to gravitate towards were different. If you're, if you played games differently, then maybe it would be higher up the list. But obviously this is personal to you guys, and I'm not saying you're wrong.
You did,
but you kind of are.
No, I'm not.
I think they were your exact words.
They were your exact words, yeah.
And quote, I'm there. Oh no. But, yeah.
Are you generally into fantasy stuff then, Heather? Like, as in like dragons and kings and queens?
No. Well, yes and no. I mean, I like fantasy. I enjoy fantasy. I would say. Do you mean like gaming or just like generally?
Just
like
generally,
stuff?
like
generally,
Lord
I
of
would
the Rings.
say, to be honest, my first and foremost, the thing that I always gravitate towards is things that are character driven, whether that's sci-fi, fantasy, crime, whatever the genre. Like if the characters, if you care about the characters from the moment a game or a TV show starts, I'm invested, and that is why I know I keep going back to The Last of Us, but that's why I like that game, for example, so much, because you're just fully in it.
But would you say Skyrim's character driven?
No, it's not. But no, but the beauty of it is that you can kind of make it your own. You can make your own character and do your own thing, and that for me was very appealing. You know, I have no for being a 90s child. My first I had a Sega Mega Drive first and then a PS1, and a lot of the games, you know, a lot was left up to the imagination. You had to fit in a lot of the gaps. Final Fantasy VII was probably one of the first games that I fell in love with. And, you know, it's all text, you know, so it's like a book. You're doing the voices in your head, you're filling in those gaps. And I think the problem with a lot of games these days is that nothing is left to the imagination anymore. Everything is spelled out for you. And there was something about coming back to Skyrim where I got the best of both worlds. I was able to sort of make it my own, put my own stamp on it, do my own thing, make it my own, make the personality of the Dragonborn whatever I wanted it to be. But you weren't dealing with, you know, PS1 graphics. You were dealing with this amazing world with the soundtrack, and the whole thing just flowed and carried me into a very happy place that I keep returning. So
I think what you're saying about your imagination filling in the blanks, I think that might compensate for like the fact that the cities do only have 7 houses in them. Like when I was doing that big battle, I was thinking like, oh yeah, this is a big battle, even though I can only see 8 people. Like in my head it was like you know, spanning miles, but actually it was only what was directly in front of me.
Yeah,
I think
but
you do.
Really
I do
exciting.
get what you mean. But yeah, I get what you mean with it. It's like you are having to do a little bit of the legwork yourself. Suspending
and
the
I
belief.
think there's something
almost.
really beautiful of that. You know, if you're into D&D, I mean, I've never, you know, really delved into the world of Dungeons and Dragons, but I feel like it might be for me, especially after.
I think it might be as well.
I think maybe it's my calling. But you know, for me, filling in those gaps, there's something really humble and warming about that. And I think as somebody who came from a generation of games that started off, you know, like my first game was like Sonic 2 and Streets of Rage on Sega Mega Drive.
Is great, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a whole different podcast. You know, so I am, you know, I've come from that generation of, right, I'm going to have to fill in the gaps for myself and make this, you know, when you go back as an adult and play a game, they always look so much worse, don't they? And you think, really? Was this actually what I played? Like, but as a kid or whatever, you're like, wow. And I think that for me is Skyrim, you know, people playing it for the first time, perhaps they'll play it and think, oh, what's this? This hasn't aged well. But for me, it's just, I'm happy to fill in those gaps and just get stuck in.
Just quickly, because you said, Skyrim's obviously quite old and you're from a different generation. Skyrim is as old now as
don't say it
as the
Olympics?
millennium was when Skyrim came out. So like we have gone quite a long way. Like it's pretty old at this point. Also, the other thing I was going to say was, I think 12. It's pretty respectable considering fantasy is my most hated genre of anything. Like it's an instant turn off for me. Like, you know,
but there was enough to be enjoyed.
Yeah, definitely.
Even so, you could, yeah. I respect that.
Thank you.
Okay, right. Well, so well done to Skyrim. I mean, 12 out of 28 is not bad at all. Like, obviously, it's like, as I said, it's a monolithic game. It's a huge game. But I think 12 is still pretty good anyway. You know, this is down to me and Ollie's weird particular tastes. That's just the way that this goes.
I'm not going to take
Kai's
do you want to chat about away from them.
No, we owed that for Kai. There was can we put Ooblets up one just to say thank you to Kai, our happy birthday present.
Okay, all right, I agree. There you go, Mr. Driller's Drill Land sounds 10.
Brilliant. So Ooblets is now at number 9.
Yeah.
For all
Happy
the
birthday.
audience. Well done, Ooblets. A little about that. And also they've been really updating it since 1.0. They've actually added like a bunch of really cool stuff. So it's
nice.
It's earned its way there as well. But yeah, that is going to be the end of our chat about Skyrim. Did you want to kind of announce some of the upcoming games, Ollie, so people can have a chance to play along if they want to join in the conversation?
We actually got the next, between me and you, we've got the next 6 in.
Okay.
Should we
I'd say
announce-
go up to don't announce the old game that we're going to
Okay,
do. Don't
all
announce
right,
that
all
yet
right, cool,
because I want to double check that we can play and record that appropriately.
Okay, so next time we have Frog Detective, which is coming out December 2nd. The podcast coming out December 2nd. It's out already and it's on Game Pass on PC. So play along with us. And then December 16th, we have Caro Blaster, which you can get your PC, your Switch, and your iPhone. Then at some point in December, we're hoping to have another quiz, which it looks like it's going ahead. So that'll be coming out at some point in December. And then the next game after that will be Half-Life Alyx on VR with a guest. And then the next game after that will be Phoenix Wright. Like whatever the HD version is called, that's the one we're doing. So yeah, that'll be
Okay, but the original game.
the original game.
Is
Yeah,
that
they
right?
made a HD, like I can't remember what it's called exactly, but that's the version we're doing. And it's January 27th.
Okay.
So there you go.
Okay, cool. So that's what's going to be coming up in the future. Any other housekeeping in general about the bonus points, Ollie?
Hope you joined us and loved our stream. 1 year celebration stream.
yeah.
That was good.
1
Also,
year anniversary.
yeah, my episode of Drunken Horror that I was on with Alice, who did the Last of Us episode of us, came out yesterday. So listen to that as well.
Okay, cool, awesome. Thank you once again, Heather, for joining us and
Thank you.
bringing
This is the
Skyrim
most-
back into our lives.
Thank you so
This
much
is the
for
most
introducing
fun-
me.
Oh, you are welcome. And sorry that things got a little fiery there. We can still be friends if you like.
That's the Nord in me.
Yes. And just thank you
temper.
for this is the most fun I have had all year. No exaggeration. Thank you so much. And it's been awesome. Thank you.
It's also quite appropriate. People can't see, but there's actually like a lit fireplace next to Heather right now. Like it's very appropriate. for the
It's so hot in this
conversation.
room. I'm burning up. It is because we've had to keep all the doors shut. It's like I am slowly roasting away.
Oh, I was thinking it'd be all lovely for you. Okay, right, we'll end it now then, so Heather can go leave the sauna that we've created. Thank you all, everyone, so much for listening or watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Cheers,
Bye.
bye.